2-point game. No timeouts. 10 seconds left. Jazz down 2. Hayward across the half court with 7. Drives into traffic. Bounces to the wing. Trey for a 3 right side. It's good! Trey Burke from the right corner buries the 3. 1.6 seconds left. That kid is simply totally awesome. We'll review the discussion yesterday on 97.5 with Hans Olsen. We will look at the coaching situation and can the Jazz trade up. All of that coming up on today's edition of Tip Off. Pow, choo, bam, pow, whap. How are you? Thanks so much for taking the time today. Great to have you along. And some of the numbers on tip-off are astronomically big right now. I just wanted to thank everybody, the iTunes numbers, the Stitcher numbers, the YouTube watch numbers. So thank you very, very much for everybody doing that, taking the time. Very, very much appreciated. We do not have a film study tomorrow. We'll dig in tomorrow, film study a little bit. We'll look at LeBron's shots against the Spurs. And tomorrow's will really be an NBA Finals edition, but there's too much news otherwise out there today. So let's get to it on things, and we'll do the finals for you tomorrow. All right, first thing, coaching search. Here's what we know from reports. There are 3 people coming for a second interview. Tony Jones, Salt Lake Tribune, has reported an interesting little note on this that I think is important. I got to tip the hat. Tony's done a nice job. He's picked up that beat with Aaron Falk, and Tony's done really nice work. And that is, and I think he's reported this, he also mentioned it to me yesterday in a conversation, then I walked away and thought about it. So Adrian Griffin is coming into town. We said he was interviewing Thursday, but it's interesting, Tony mentioned him, he's coming into town. I hadn't thought about it much, and I don't really know where the process is on all of this, but if he's coming into town, and Tony made this comment to me, he's coming into town Wednesday, he's leaving Friday, he's interviewing Thursday, that's a long, extended interview. That possibly means, that's probably more than, I don't know. I mean, but at some point in the process, you've got to meet the Millers, right? I mean, that's the organization. Gail and Greg and Steve is the president. I mean, that's the organization. That's who, and I don't know if any other Millers are involved, but that's who the organization is. That's what you represent. That's if you become the head coach, you have their name attached to you, and your actions reflect on them. Frankly, they better believe that whoever they hire is a good human being that is going to reflect well on this organization. It has been a blessing who we've had as head coaches in this organization, from Tom Nasalki to Frank Layden to Jerry Sloan to Tyrone Corbin, and under the Miller realm of Tyrone Corbin and Larry H. and of Jerry Sloan, that these are some of the best people you're ever going to deal with. You better have a solid human being who you trust and believe under excruciating pressure is going to do the right things. It is clear, and I admire it immensely, that the Millers do a wonderful job of separating themselves from the basketball operations. We don't have the Robert Parra situation in Memphis. We don't have the Joe Lacob situation in Golden State, where that owner, who I've kind of openly admitted I would probably be, that owner is in and making decisions and meddling. And, that's not who the Millers are. That's not who Greg Miller is. That's not who Gail Miller is. And Larry probably was somewhere in between. Larry was heavily involved, yet always let everyone do their work, which is really admirable as well. And gave people the great belief that they had been given the freedom to do their work. Greg is equally as supportive without being as demonstrative. Gail is very in tune to what's going on. Steve is incredibly bright, with amazing recall and very diligently detailed in what he does. And they're involved here at some point. So the fact that Adrian Griffin is coming from Tony Jones, is coming to town, that matters. I would assume maybe that Alvin Gentry's in town today, and it sounds like Quinn Snyder's doing another interview, and so that's probably Wednesday, Friday next week. I don't know on how this plays out, but that's where we seem to sit. Now, there does seem, Jody Genessy has reported, there seems to be other, I have no idea what who Other is. I don't know if they're related to Bai. Maybe Other has coached Bai for all these years, and Bai has yet to lose. So maybe Other's fabulous. I have no idea. But it does seem like they've really progressed, that there's, we've had some time here, and now you've got some guys that are coming into the house that are meeting people and interacting and seem to have some level of importance there. So it's exciting as we move forward. The names that we know as of right now are Alvin Gentry, are Tony Jones. Tony Jones is going to coach the Jazz. Alvin Gentry, Quinn Snyder, Adrian Griffin are the names that have been mentioned to us. Tyson Newman and his crew, Purple and Blue, did a nice little recap of those three and how they stand. And yesterday we showed you kind of the trilio of how my coaching trees on how those work. If for some reason you missed yesterday, I will quickly look at this with you just to review it quickly. So here you have the NBA successful coaches: Lionel Hollins, George Karl, Alvin Gentry, Nate McMillan. Alvin Gentry is green because he seems to be involved. Those with Spurs connections: Jim Boylan, Quinn Snyder, Brad Jones, Taylor Jenkins, very young, Ken McDonald, limited experience, Joe Prunty, who's now in Brooklyn, involved. Quinn Snyder seems coming. Van Gundy, Thibodeau, coaching connection: Adrian Griffin, Mike Longobardi, Andy Greer, Bob Byer, who's being talked about being hired, I think, in Golden State for Kerr, and Adrian Griffin, wild cards. They haven't gone down. Head coaching, D-League experience, they seem to be staying. Maybe that's Quinn fitting that. If you put them in little boxes, here's your NBA successful head coach, here's Quinn as your Spurs connection and former D-League coach, and here's Van Gundy. And then, as we talked about, the events that have changed things, the Van Gundy's getting complete control, Kerr's money, lottery, and no major coaching changes along the way in Vogel and Brooks. And then, by the way, this is coaches hired over here. So that's, for those who missed that the other day on that board, that's how I am following this and trying to keep order of what's taking place. But that's where we seem to be. Gentry is a wonderful man. Core, good high core value guy, been married for 35 years, I think. Grew up in the South, worked his way up kind of in really an interesting kind of fashion into this business. He was not a player in the league, in how he was able, what he went through and how he got there, and then got some breaks that weren't particularly, I would say, very good for him. He did some interim coaching and then really got his break after D'Antoni left, and now has spent some time with Doc Rivers. So he's got the offensive exposure of D'Antoni. He's got the defense of Doc Rivers and Thibodeau. He's 60 years old, maybe only 59 years old right now, and has had, just incredible experience. He was a head coach in Detroit. He was a head coach a little bit in the Clippers. So he's done an awful lot. He had an interim stint in Miami. He was his best year in Detroit. He finished third, lost in the first round. His best year in Phoenix, he won 54 games, lost in the conference finals. Those are the two playoff teams that he has had along the way. His final year in Phoenix, they started the rebuild and he moved on. So, interesting guy, great human being. Has a Baylor tie. By the way, was an assistant at Baylor in 1980-81. Dennis Lindsey was not there yet at that point, as Gentry has been in this business for a while. Quinn Snyder, we've talked about it a lot. He's been a D-League head coach, been a head coach at Missouri. His Missouri teams started very strong, and then they had tumultuous run after that. Different viewpoints on how that all played out or who's responsible for what there. That I don't know the answers to, but has the Spurs connection. Spent 3 years in the D-League with some success there. I think was a D-League Coach of the Year and hit I think the finals 1 year with the Toros, and has now been exposed to 4 different organizations in the last 4 years in Philadelphia, Los Angeles, Messina in Moscow, as well as now the Atlanta Hawks. And then there's Adrian Griffin, who's a longtime player in the playoffs, a great deal when he was a player, journeyman, bounced around, worked with a great defensive mind in Scott Skiles, and then has worked with another great defensive mind in Tom Thibodeau, and probably is the best assistant coach, former player assistant coach out there to be talking to, and the Jazz have identified that, and he's part of the interview process. So that's where we are. I don't know if I told you anything new. You probably knew who all those guys were at this point if you're listening to this. So let's move on. I think that to a conversation I had yesterday, 97.5 FM, Hans Olsen. I came down, had fun with him. I love Hans. I'm a big fan of his work. We communicate on and off, and he is really, I admire him because he's really working to be a great broadcaster, not just to be a former athlete. And he's tried, I follow him closely. He started kind of his comedic level with his great personality. Then he more recently has kind of, I think, gone into, I have connections and resources and understanding that's higher than anyone else, and has really become a very good broadcaster and insightful, and it's going to be amazing during football season. And so I came down yesterday in studio to have some fun with him and give him the business, and we went back and forth, and he had me on the ropes a lot, and so there were a bunch of issues that now, without anyone pestering me, I can try to get to. One of the things we talked about was whether the Jazz would draft Marcus Smart, and what does it mean for Trey Burke. No matter what we do in this draft, we're going to have a duplicate. Maybe the only case of not having a duplicate would be to have Aaron Gordon, if you believe he's a 3. But we're going to have a duplicate at some position. And so you've got to walk through a little bit of, do you believe that Noah Vonleh is better than Enes Kanter or Derek Favors? If he's really Chris Bosh, then the answer is yes, he is better. Chris Bosh is a Hall of Famer. They didn't have him on the list yesterday on the show. He's a 20-10 guy at one point in this league. Neither and a 20-10 guy who's probably doing a lot of other things and pretty versatile. Is Noah Vonleh able to do that? Then he is better. Is Marcus Smart going to be a top 10 point guard in the NBA? Well, then he might be better than Trey Burke. Is Aaron Gordon better for your team in some capacity? I mean, Gordon's inability to shoot at the 3. I mean, I love Aaron Gordon, but I'm not lost on what his weaknesses. Is Julius Randle better than Enes Kanter? Is I'm forgetting somebody in this group. Smart, Vonleh, Gordon, Randle, maybe that's it. Are they better than what we have? That's even maybe to some extent. Let me back up. If you believe any of those guys are a future star game changer, that Marcus Smart is the next Russell Westbrook, or someone of that nature, if you believe any of them have a chance to be top 5 in their position in the NBA, then it just doesn't matter. You drafted. Okay? Wiggins, Parker, Embiid, we all believe could be top 5 in their position in the NBA. Okay? I have concerns on Jabari, but he could be top 5 in the NBA, and his defense is not as bad as everybody says. He's going to be fine. Wiggins and Jabari are going to score 18, 20 points a game in this league. Embiid has a chance to be a dominating 7-1 center that alters games, both defensively and offensively. They have a chance to be top 5 at their position. You draft them, regardless of what your roster looks like. It just doesn't matter. So if you believe Marcus Smart, Noah Vonleh, Aaron Gordon, or any of these guys have a chance to be top 5, you draft them. Now, if you don't, now the next question is probably to believe they can be top 10. And then the next question is, are they better than the guys we have? You really got to do that. I'll throw you a wild card on the Jazz thing that is pretty out there. Might not have any validity. Got that? Don't go run with this as a headline. Might not have any validity. If you draft Marcus Smart, is Raul Neto become a viable complement to Marcus Smart that allows you to trade Trey Burke? So the problem right now with Trey Burke and Raul Neto is they're both really small. And they probably don't, you probably can't have one as your starting point guard and the other as your backup point guard because they're both really small. But if you suddenly have the shrink-eating Tyreke Evans and Marcus Smart, then maybe Raul Neto works and Trey Burke becomes an asset you move. Now, frankly, I don't know. I was trying to look last night, like even just in this draft, Tyler Ennis or Trey Burke. and I'm not saying this is something the Jazz are about to do. I'm more just saying this to you as a walk yourself through the process. This is the process that the Jazz will go through in this process. Is walk yourself through this. Okay, now if you draft Marcus Smart, do you have to move Trey Burke? Okay, well, if we do, then is Raul Neto? Oh, well, then maybe we don't really have a loss there, and we can go get something. But what can we get? And I think the question then becomes, would someone rather have Trey Burke with a year experience or Tyler Ennis of Syracuse? When you look at the point guards in this draft, they go Exum, Smart. I think those guys, most people, talent evaluators have them as top 5 in a much better draft than 9th in last year's draft. So that speaks volumes all by itself. And then you go to Ennis, is that, or Peyton, and where does Trey fit in that group, right? Could the Jazz take, hypothetically, 23 and Trey and get to 13? Does Orlando, who has Oladipo as a big 2, suddenly decide, you know what, we love Vonleh, we're going to take Vonleh at 4, and with our other pick in there, we'll get Trey in 23 for whatever that pick is. I think they're sitting at 13 or 14. I probably should look at NBA draft order. And the Jazz suddenly do that. Right? I'm making this up. But this is the spaghetti you got to throw on the wall. Again, this is not something that's about to happen. This is just the spaghetti you throw on the wall. Does Orlando like that? A lot of you guys are throwing spaghetti on the wall at me all the time. I think it's great. But that, does it suddenly become, do the Jazz try something that's even a larger package? The Orlando's at 12, where the Jazz trade 5 and, I'm making this up, 23 and Trey for 4 and 12. Now, you don't probably need to do that if you're drafting Marcus Smart, because Marcus Smart, unless you think Orlando's going to take him, and then you take, and that's who you really want, you think he's the guy who's most likely to be top 10, top 5 at their position in the NBA with their ability. And that he's I've talked to people who I trust, he's a defensive game changer at the point. I think Smart, as of right now, without watching all these guys, unless Vonleh's great, I think Smart is the 5th pick. Just the way it's playing out. Okay? So just, that's the game. If you think Vonleh is going to be great, you draft him and then you deal with Kanter, Favors, and Vonleh. Maybe you go to Kanter and say, we actually think you're a 3rd big. And we think you're going to be a great 3rd big. Vonleh is not a rim protector, though. He might be a great offensive player and a good defensive player, and he's got great athleticism. He's got great numbers. He's not a rim protector from the people I've talked to. I've not watched him a lot. Gordon, you're going to have to see. I love Aaron Gordon. I think he's Andre Karolinko-esque, but I've talked about this a ton. This day and age is guys sitting in each corner, high pick and roll, 3rd guy spread out, let's go to work, right? That's the Manu Ginobili comes off the Tim Duncan play the other night. Let's go to work. Okay, if you suddenly have non-shooters all the way around the outside and you're the Utah Jazz, that's really a problem. And that's a problem for both Marcus Smart and Aaron Gordon. And 2 bigs and Favors and Kanter. Woo! How we space on the floor? Kanter's going to shoot a 3. All right. Coaching, sir. Let's see. Trade. I'm kind of gone for a while. I have a bunch of topics in here. We don't have any new news coming. I'm just going to go to questions, and I'm sure some of these things will come up. Quick draft news. Smart, Ennis, and Vonleh are heading to L.A. for a workout with the Lakers. Gordon was in Sacramento recently. They're all on the West Coast. We may start seeing them here pretty soon. Smart had a second workout with the Orlando Magic, which is interesting because they have 4. They're going to take Marcus Smart, and then Exum drops to us at 5. Exum, to me, somebody said to me about Exum, he's the biggest pendulum swing in this draft. Okay, Jabari Parker and Andrew Wiggins' pendulum swing is really small. They're going to be great. They're going to score, and it will turn out whether they're champions or not. Embiid's back issue makes his pendulum swing a little bit further than some others, but he's going to be pretty good. Exum's pendulum is superstar bust. Woo! And somebody said to me also defensively, you're starting at base 0. Marcus Smart, pendulum swing is significant because if he never learns how to shoot, then he's on this end of the pendulum. But if he learns how to shoot, he's there. Aaron Gordon, same thing. Vonleh's pendulum swing's probably pretty small. He may never be a superstar, probably pretty good if he's Chris Bosh. He's really good. Julius Randle's pendulum swing probably has a little bit more to it. Let's see. Kyle Anderson with the Celtics today. Coaching news. Lakers have talked to Mike Dunleavy, Kurt Rambis, Byron Scott, Lionel Hollins. I think it's all a smoke screen for somebody else they're trying to get. They're trying to shoot big. They're not getting that time. All right, let's go to the questions. Wow, I got a lot of them, so let's fly through them. I'll try to take each. There's a lot of people who submitted more than one. Let's see what we can do to get to them. We'll start right here with our first one from Craig Lillard. Vonleh has great measurables. Can he shoot from the outside? Has great hands for big. Very young. Needs a lot to learn. What are your thoughts? I have not watched a lot of him. What I've been told is solid defensive player, non-rim protector. Offensively seems to have skills. Plays hard. You know, all these guys play hard, which is fabulous. He is not, for his big hands, his jumps, and those kind of things, he's not a quick jumper. He's not a quick player the way, and he's not an instinctually impactful defensive player. From what I've been told, I have not watched a lot of him, but that's the word on the street. Next one. All right, you guys all want invites. Email me at dlocks09@gmail.com, and I will try to get them to you. James Hansen, won't Marcus Smart be effective right away, especially with so many smaller point guards in the league like Curry, Lawson? Seems like he will be a real game changer on defense and offense. I am leaning that direction. He's got to figure out how to shoot, but so does Russell Westbrook, and he's kind of figured it out. And frankly, so does Dwayne Wade. And if you watch the NBA Finals, what Spoelstra does is, you know, the guy who can't shoot, who has the ball, doesn't matter. You still got to guard him. It doesn't negatively impact spacing. The shooting guard that can't shoot, the 3 that can't shoot, those impact spacing. The 4 that can't shoot, those impact spacing. But the point guard who's not a great outside shooter, who has the ball in his hands, you still got to guard him. So his lack of outside shooting is not as important as others. But it's worth mentioning Russell Westbrook is thought of as a non-shooter. Marcus Smart's college numbers are far below Russell Westbrook's, if I remember correctly, at UCLA. Westbrook, you know, everyone was really thought of as a non-shooter who's evolved. Now, and Russell Westbrook, this is probably an unfair, is a freak athlete beyond that of what I think Marcus Smart is. And probably we need to be a little careful of that. But here, I'm going to quickly do this for you. Russell Westbrook at UCLA shot 47%, and his career three-point shooting was 35. So career 46 and 35 in 2 years. Marcus Smart is 41 and 29. That's considerably less, right? I love Marcus Smart's jump in his two-point shooting percentage from 47 to 52 last year. He's not a bad free throw shooter at 75%, so he probably has some touch. His 3 steals a game, though, for a collegiate player, that's a fabulous in a block and a half block. That's an indicator. I mean, Russell Westbrook was only at 1.6. Westbrook only shot 68% free throw line in college. You know, that's a hard translation to go give you. 6'3", 187 in Westbrook, 6'4", 220 in Smart. Man, oh man alive, 6'4", 220, you cannot coach. Woo! Let's go to S. Craig Lillard. I'll call you Lillard, though. Would love to start seeing your evaluations of draft prospects. To me, 2 players who we could get to have high potential are Gordon and Sark. What do you think of them? I know Gordon struggled with shooting, but as a worker, and I think he can fix that. I love Gordon's impact on the rest of the game and everything he does. I need to watch him more closely. I've been tipped off to some things from people who don't. I'm asking a lot about him because I want to know from people who don't like him as much what they don't like, and I need to go watch some things on him that might be a sign. Some people think that he's really got a touch problem, that the reason he can't shoot, that he doesn't finish well around the rim either. If you really get into it, if it's not an alley-oop or a dunk and it's close around the rim, it's a tip or a follow. Jeremy Evans doesn't have great touch. And one thing you notice is whenever he's tipping at the rim, he misses a lot. That's a touch. That's a really skilled, talented touch to touch that. And you got to make sure Aaron has that to use his athleticism. Jan Vesely doesn't have it and turned out to, Jan Vesely and Aaron Gordon have a lot of similarities in just freak athletes, unbelievable player trying to play their position, things of that nature. And it hasn't, and it didn't work for him. So it's got to be careful on that. And I didn't like Jan Vesely, so I got to watch Aaron Gordon more to figure out what the difference is. Any surprise Jerry Sloan's name hasn't been mentioned in our coaching search from Nick Smith? I think we're looking for someone who's going to take it for a long, long run and really evolve with this team with Dennis Lindsey, and I'm not sure that Jerry would do that. And I'm not sure Jerry wants to coach again. I think he really likes the position that he's in right now. Let's go to Mike Peacock. If we draft Marcus Smart, why does that mean we have to trade Trey? It doesn't. Isn't it possible Trey, Alec, and Marcus could play three-man backcourt rotation, at least keep them both while rookie contracts until one of them emerges as the franchise point guard? Absolutely. You are so correct. There's absolutely nothing that says you'd have to at all. In fact, who says that you don't start Trey Burke, Marcus Smart, Gordon Hayward, Derek Favors, Enes Kanter, and have Alec Burks come off the bench, or start, I don't know, and have Rudy Gobert and Enes Kanter, or start Rudy Gobert as a defensive center with Enes Kanter and Alec Burks offensive second unit for a while. There's nothing that says you have to in any way, shape, or form. In fact, Marcus Smart's presence it's a little bit Darren Collis. We're seeing dual point guards all across the league, right? Jared Jack, Steph Curry was pretty fabulous. Darren Collis and Chris Paul, and the size differential between the two allows Trey Burke to not have to guard a Russell Westbrook in that circumstance, and allow someone else to do it. Absolutely, Mark Peacock. Absolutely. Leanne Hofford, what are you talking about? That is a question most people ask every day about someone as crazy as me. Is there any chance that Jeff Van Gundy said he would not talk about coaching jobs until after the finals? Yes, I think that's possible, but I'm not sure that's possible for us. I frankly think the one job out there that Van Gundy might take is the Lakers. Minnesota, I think he'd want control. He'd want control the way his brother does. Cleveland, Minnesota, the Jazz don't offer that, nor do the Knicks. So the Lakers, I don't think they'd bang Kupchak. He's pretty in, but maybe they give him some more control. So yes, that's possible, but I don't think with us. And if Van Gundy was a candidate for us, I don't think we'd be moving along as far as we are with Adrian Griffin and all of those other guys. Don't you think there's a chance the Jazz trade back if they believe there's not a franchise-changing player at 5? Yeah, if they got enough for it, I guess. Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely a chance. And I think all of these, there's no question Dennis is going to investigate every single one of these possibilities. There's no question. I heard you take hands. No, I did not. Would I be correct that you believe Burke is similar to Millsap and that ideally a backup point guard, a good team? Millsap's an all-star in an Eastern Conference playoff team, so I guess that means I know nothing. No, not at all. I think Trey Burke's fine. I didn't like the logic that Hans was using that if you draft Marcus Smart, you can't trade Trey Burke because he might be good somewhere else. I just didn't like that logic. The issue is not whether Trey Burke would be good somewhere else. It's whether Marcus Smart would be good. And I think that's what I was taking to. I think Trey Burke could be fine in this league, and I've said this entire time. You cannot evaluate a player on their rookie year in this league. Rookie point guards, he did exactly what we should anticipate from him as a rookie point guard in the NBA. It's exactly what anyone from DJ Augustine to Raymond Felton to point guards that turned out to be good. Johnny Flynn, frankly, had a good rookie year and then turned out to be not good. So there's a lot of different angles on it. Trey has huge strides he has to make to become a top 15 point guard in this league, and I think he's probably capable of that. But it doesn't mean if you have a guy that you're certain is going to be a top 15 point guard in the NBA, you don't take him. Scott Jepson with another question. Doesn't Brad Jones meet all the criteria in your candidates analysis? I don't know why he's not getting any airtime, and I guess the answer to that's probably, well, let's see. He was a small college coach, went to the NAIA championships with Lambeth, who's now part of the University of Memphis. He D-leagued for the Utah Flash, went to the D-League championships. He D-leagued for the Austin Toros. He actually followed Quinn Snyder in Austin, I believe. I'd have to check that. And won the D-League championship in Austin and has been an NBA assistant. I don't know. Is he hurt by? He's got access. He's worked under Sloan and Popovich. It's pretty solid. If Kanter starts shooting the threes this year, don't you think that would spread the floor and make Kanter and Favors a better fit? Yes, I do. I think it's going to be interesting to see whether a new coach can get us better floor spacing and make our players better. Was our floor spacing? I need to take some time on Synergy, go back and watch plays with Gordon Hayward as a ball handler, but Synergy's so jacked up. Synergy is such a great concept. It's not actually good. And here's why. Let me clarify that. So I need to go look. What I'd like to go look at is see Gordon Hayward's pick and rolls last year, and whether or not he lacked space on the floor, and whether we were doing something in our offensive system that didn't give him the space to operate the way he would with a better spacing, of Atlanta Budenholzer type system or something like that. However, the way Synergy works, if I go look at his pick and roll plays, it's only plays that end with the ball in his hand. So by definition, if he finished the ball in his hands and got to the room, took a shot, then probably our spacing was good on that play. What it doesn't show is all the times he came off a pick and roll, stopped, kicked out to somebody else, and the play died, and then I see bad spacing. So it's not a very effective way for me to know what's going on. And I don't know. I mean, I guess I could just watch a bunch of games randomly. All right. Thank you. That is tip-off today. Hope you've enjoyed. Good numbers again. Appreciate it. I think I got all the notes I wanted to get to. We'll see how this plays out. Exciting few weeks for the Jazz. Talk to you soon.